Personal power. And this is going to take us right into exercise 19, imagining your most empowered self, and journal prompt 18, exploring religion and personal power. And then lastly, journal prompt 19, exploring culture and personal power. So I know that we've already looked at personal power. I know we've already looked at cages of identity and how they show up, but I really do believe that this bears repeating and really putting them two together. How did the cages of identity and how do these two things in particular really impact personal power? And the reason that I fixate on religion and culture is because those are the two kind of most high control, virtuous reasons that we give up our power, right? So we'll get to that in a minute. Really, what I want to focus on is how disabling fear can be to personal power, right? And if we go back to what we talked about in the last video a little bit, we understand the ego further, right? The ego wants to be safe. So then the biggest enemy, the biggest destabilizing or disabling like energy that we can have for the ego is fear. Because if the ego is in fear, the ego immediately seeks to make itself safe. It doesn't care what it needs to do, even if it finds that safety in self sabotage. Even if it means it finds that safety in staying in really abusive and nasty dynamics and relationships, right? So let's say I grew up poor and I'm in a relationship with somebody, but I'm afraid of ever being poor again. That's a fear of mine. I can map it to a wound. I can map it to trauma, right? I might stay in that relationship and dismiss all the bad things that have happened, even if it's very abusive, because I'm fearful of being poor again, right? I might stay in a job that doesn't serve me because I'm fearful of not having money in my hands instead of believing that my needs will always be taken care of. I'm in my personal power. I can manifest with ease. My needs are always met. It's a big difference. When your ego feels empowered, your ego isn't fearful all the time. Your ego doesn't make excuses for you to stay in things that diminish and or hurt you. There's a lot of times, I will have clients say, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve this. I don't deserve to be treated like that. And I'm like, then why do you tolerate it? Because you are fearful of what will happen if you stop. You don't put up boundaries in your personal relationship because you know that if you did, those people would leave you, and you have a fear of being alone. You have a fear of being abandoned. You have a fear of being left. So you rather stay in relationships that don't nourish you at all, that don't serve you at all, just so that your ego can feel safe in the idea that you have people. Doesn't matter that you don't actually have people, as long as the ego feels safe. And the problem is that a wounded ego that's out of its power will seek to control everything. It's not going to let your spirit take the wheel. It wants to control everything because that's the job of the ego, is to keep you safe. So maybe you're daydreaming about something beautiful that you want to do. I want to start a business. Here comes the ego saying, you can't do that. You're not capable of doing that. Why does the ego do that? The ego does that because it's trying to prevent you from being hurt, because it anticipates failure, because you have decided that you failed so many times in the past, or other people have failed and you're not nearly as talented. So, of course, you will fail too. So I'm not even going to give myself the chance. It's all fear. Now, what is some of this fear born of? A lot of it is born of religion, right? Religion is the first place that a lot of us were taught to feel really fearful of the world around us and of our place in the world and of the impact of our choices. Like if we make the wrong decisions, we can burn in an everlasting fire and be tormented forever. That's scary, right? Never mind that as a premise to a lot of religion, as we talked about before, is the idea that you are born broken and worthless. You have no internal power, so you need external power. Well, think about how much fear that really instills. Not only do I have to move in a certain way to be worthy, but then what if I still don't please this external power source? And that's the only thing that can keep me from ending up tormented forever by their mercy, by their will, right? So, in both these places, in culture and religion, we are both taught duty to the whole or duty to something outside of ourselves over our own personal power in my life. I have met a lot of people from more restrictive cultures, more collectivist cultures that are high control, who really I'm thinking about all the clients that are coming up right now. You know, I had a client, for example, who was Middle Eastern, and she was a grown woman. She was socialized here in Virginia, but even as a grown woman, she would not swim, even though swim was the thing that gave her so much joy. And when I asked her why she wouldn't swim, because her mother did not think it was appropriate for her to swim as a grown woman. That was it. That was a cultural artifact, and it might have been just cultural to that family, you know, a cultural artifact that she still had to give so much consideration to this, even as an adult, just seeking some joy in her own life. She was limited. You know, religion and culture can do the same thing. I have met so many people, because of their culture, they believe that they have to have this career field. They have to get married to this person, or they have to get married by this time frame. All of these things. And what is at the base of it? Fear. Fear that I will be punished, fear that I will no longer belong, fear that the community that I have will leave me, fear. That is the tool that they use to manipulate you into compliance, fear and duty, right? But what happens if you don't perform your duty? You need to be fearful of that. You will be, so it's fear at its core is what they use to coerce you into abandoning yourself. And while I want to be culturally sensitive, I also acknowledge from a privileged place, sure, with some Western ideals, sure. But all of these high control cultures are highly damaging. Cultures that don't consider the collective at all and the individual are also damaging. We need to understand that it is a balance of the two. I have a responsibility to myself first, so that I can show up as the best version of myself for the collective, for the culture. All right. Where religion is concerned, the problem is, and where it's so much more nefarious, is that I don't believe that I have any power. So as I'm deconstructing from religion, now I have to completely reframe ideas and notions of my power in my own life. And if I do have so much power in my own life, where exactly does God fit in? Must I abandon God and religion to stand fully in my power? Must I abandon myself to give them the reverence and the love that they deserve and require? And I'm not here to answer those questions for yourself. I have answered them for myself. And I can tell you personally, I lean onto my own understanding as much as there are books that say that I shouldn't. And I have been guided well. I lean on my own power. I don't depend on any external power source, any external power source. I believe that I was made quite powerful in the image of my creator. And so then how could my creator possibly create me worthless? It's impossible. I believe that I am an embodiment of love. And in love, I love myself first. And then I believe that I have power and I speak life over myself. But that's a decision that serves me well and that makes sense to me. If that doesn't make sense to you, if it brings you more comfort to externalize your power, that's fine, as long as it serves you. There isn't a good or bad in this world. It's about what serves you. So as you look at these exercises behind culture and religion and how they impact personal power, ask yourself, do these things serve you? Being fearful all the time, how does it serve you? Does it serve to limit you, or does it serve to empower you? And if it serves to limit you and you don't want to be limited, why do you keep subscribing to ideologies that don't serve you? Why have you internalized beliefs that diminish you? Why are you continuing to hold on to harmful beliefs in your adult life just because they were implanted in childhood? That is the work that we do here. Okay, make sure whatever you decide, it serves you well.